Good afternoon. I would like to show you the progress of my scenery project, which is a historical theme of a fortified city which is being attacked by a foreign army. And what I have done until now was making the model house, as you have seen here, and a model bridge for a small river. And I have now started to design to make an outlay of how the whole scenery should look like. And I've been drawing a river, and I did this with pencil so that you can always erase if you want to correct it, and I already did this even. And I sketched where the rocks will come, and here will be a rock in the river, and little rocks, and some beach as well, beach with little rocks, of course, a very rocky beach, and the waterfall will come here. Here will become the waterfall, as you can see, and this house is a water mill, and the water mill will have thus here the possibility of putting a mill. And this is a little bit too high, but I just positioned them so that you can see the level change. Everything will be high here, and then we'll go down quite drastically here with rocks here, and here will be the sea. This is a bay with a port, and I started to construct now the long bridge which connects this hill with the fortified city. And I started, it will all be wood carved, as you can see. This is a wood carved as well, and it is made just the same way as the other bridge. The only difference is that I didn't use cardboard but massive wood on the underside, which was easier than cardboard, and it can be carved. This is a plus. Even though I won't carve here, I will just paint it black because that won't be visible. I will only carve it here at the bottom. And I made everything fit. And I decided to not upload a video of how to make this because it would take like 40 videos to show. But you can make these parts yourself as well. These will have to be carved still. They are of simple pine with as less as resin and less little stripes, brown stripes as possible, because if it has stripes it will be harder to be carved. So I used a kind of pine which was without any character. This is the inside of the city, and there will be a street alongside, and I gave it, everything is simple planing. Here I planed the bevel here at the downside. Here I glued a strip, and this one strip I planed down a lot, this one less, and the cannons will be here on top pointing to the enemy, and they will be they will have like a defense line on top here. They will have the same kind as these here, which is just nails or any other steel, small steel with sewing yarn and glue, and then paint it. And I will put them there too, so that there is some more fence than only this stone wall. And there will be grass and a little dike here and there, and in between there will be the cannons with these corbs which are imitation of willow branches, like basket, and filled up with sand and little rocks and things like that. That's how they did it in around 1700, and even later in the 19th century they still did fortifications like that. Well, the next step is that the port will be made. This is the place where the boat can, there will be a little boat with just one mast in the same style of 1700. the same style. So in this, for example, this is an Austrian regiment of the 7 Years' War. This kind of soldiers will be in the scenery. I still didn't make up my mind where the scenery, but it will be in where it will take place, but it will be more or less in Europe. But I also could do the American Independence War 1776. I'm not sure yet. I have to think about it. I used to collect these when I was a kid. Now I designed a boat, which I just did in one of those evenings when you can't sleep. And the boat of one mast will be looking like this. This is a rough sketch, but it is enough. I will build it by eye, and I'm actually already started. The top, from the top, it is seen like that. This is just a half model. The places for the cannons are indicated. As you can see, at both backboard and leeboard, you'll have 2 cannons, so 4 cannons in total, and only 1 mast. This is the mast. And it's gaff rigged with 2 forestays and 4 sails, which means this is a cutter. And the sail plan will be more or less looking like this. And it will be made of scratch wood. And I also will make like 2 longboats with soldiers, or 3 longboats for those soldiers. Longboats will be also made in the same way. They are all made of scrap wood and of massive wood, laminated in some cases. In this case, this won't be laminated. It will just be, for example, willow is a very good wood to be carved, and still it has some flexibility, and it is hard for its density. Now the little sloops can be made. They can be made of of massive wood, but the big boat I decided to make out of a block. And the first thing I did was I measured this out and made a paper pattern from the view, from the top view, and I made it a little bit smaller. As you can see, if I put a center line on the cardboard, you can see very clearly that it is smaller, and because the bottom of the boat is smaller. This is the bottom. This is the massive part. This is massive wood, pine wood. I choose for pine wood, and it will be painted. The rest will be wood work, and the planks have to be visible. The white will just be carved with a nail very carefully, and you can see the planking through the white, but white with some green here because of the sea. But it will be painted white, but the planks won't be visible too much because it's painted. But the part where it's wood, probably, I don't know what they used. They used tar or they used oil. I don't know. It depended locally. They have to be visible more. They have to be more visible. So I started to make the boat. It's not too hard to make it. The only thing you need is accuracy and patience. And I use these kinds of clamps because they are ideal for this kind of work of lamination. I think it dried now like 3 hours. That's enough. And as you can see, this is the next layer. This is the next planking, which I did. The next plank, and what I do is I take a little saw, and every time I finished the plank, Every time I finish the plank, I cut it off, which I'm going to do now. Clamp it firmly down onto a piece of scrap wood in the bench vise. I take a very sharp saw with fine teeth and carefully saw off the laminations. Let me see, I have to clamp it more so that it won't move. So it's done. This is scrap wood. It is, you won't believe it, it is poplar, and it comes from a vegetable or fruit box. The bottom is very thin wood, and I took it off with a simple flat screwdriver. I go under the iron here, the iron things. I go under it very carefully, and then when I lift it a little bit with lots of care, and then with the pins I remove with then I will remove the nails with the pins. Flat screwdriver and the pins, and then you remove them very carefully. You have beautiful material to do lamination work. It is very thin material, flexible. It will adapt to any shape you want it to adapt. Then the next step, when you cut it off, the next step is to take a knife, a sharp knife. This one is Swiss one, and I'll carefully by eye cut the excess away. Moment. Cut the excess away. And even though it does look a little bit dangerous what I am doing, it isn't that dangerous. You have to concentrate. That's the most important. Concentration. Not put pressure on it. Let the knife do the work and not your hand. And go with the grain and not against it. So as you can see, I work that way, and then from the middle that way. From the middle. I carve it away. And then it is just a rough shaping. You have to work by eye, and you have to observe how these boats look like, and then just copy the shape more or less. So you could watch on YouTube on how these boats look like, or do videos, or you can look at books and look at the boat at different positions. But the main goal is to copy the shape of such old boats. This is far from ready. This is just a rough shape, and I have to file away, to do it with a knife or a chisel very carefully. Little by little I will shape it. Now it's not shaped. This is just rough. And I remove now the excess of the lamination in order to glue the next layer onto the top. And I still have to go like 3 plankings, and then when I do 3 planks I'll be here at the top of the rub rail. This is not a rub, this is the rail, just a rail. This is a rub rail. This will be cardboard. This is a rail which will be cardboard as well with some glue, and then I will continue doing the planking. It's not that difficult. It's just the same way how we did the little house the little house here. We did it also with cardboard and wood, and I will do also this with cardboard and wood. From both sides you see me turning the boat to the other side. This is a boat, by the way, which is designed for the soldiers which I showed you. These soldiers are scale 1 to 72, and this boat is designed to put some soldiers on them, and I will change the soldiers so that they look more like maritime captains and things like that, and I will cut off I will, with hot water you can change the positions of the arms, and you can cut away the pistols or guns. And as you can see, I'll show you, it really fits onto a boat. You can see that it's not oversized or too small or too big. So that's how. It's very important that when you make your models, either if it's a bridge or a boat or a house, that it's not oversized or too small. And also the same goes for your little natural stones which you can put into your scenery, that they are not too big or too small, and that even the sawdust isn't too big in compared to the soldiers, because otherwise it would look like ridiculous. Okay, I cut away all excess in order to glue the next layer. I keep this wood apart to do my little cooking. And the next step is to take the next lamination material which I took from the fruit box. It is very flexible, as you can see. It's very thin. And I take some sandpaper. Let me see, where is the sandpaper? Grit 80, and remove. I'll sand it a little bit as it is rough. No need to plane. And I do this until all fibers came loose which wanted to come loose. And the same I do with the material here, but first I look how nice the shape is. It already tells a little bit how the shape can become. And we will of course round it here beautifully, but you can get the idea already of how it can look like. And you can see the different planking very clearly. It looks like real planking, and with the paint and the weathering it will really look like as if it would be a strip-on planking boat, but it is just a massive boat. Now we take two of the clamps which I have been using for the lamination, and I put it on here, and I give it a little bit extra at the back. Here at the back, this is the back of the boat, and I put one clamp here in order that to make it not move. And I Now look at, I try to center this material as good as possible, and I think this is okay. And I put another one here at the front. And then I take a sharp pencil and put it upside down, and I mark the outlines. So that I know where to put on the glue. And I do this at all sides. Now you can take it apart, the clamps, and I do just the same here. I give it a good sanding. By the way, this part here, of course I made it like you see, this is a shear line. What you want to do when you have your massive piece of wood, I forgot to tell you, is this paper pattern is exactly, as you can see, fitted. And then first thing is that I gave this the right shape, and then I did a shear line. I cut the shear line with a saw roughly, and then with a round rasp and a round file I made it that at both sides, and then with a caliper I measured it out that everywhere at both sides it had the same height, so that it's even, and gave it a nice shear line. The nice shear line we want it to have. As you can see, this is a nice shear, nice round nice curve. This is a nice curve. Then once you achieved your goal, give it a nice shear. This will of course automatically, every layer of your lamination will take the same shear line, and that's what we did. So this is the massive piece of wood, and then the lamination will take the same curve. But it's very important that this is done very well, that it's well done, this with the shaping of them with the rasp and the file. If you don't do that, the curve will be not exactly like you want. It has to be very accurate when you do this massive block. So okay, we now sanded them both enough, and then take a little plastic coffee stirring thing, stick, and some white glue, and I make it dust free, and I put a good amount of white glue. And I do it on both sides in order to have a good bond. And I let it dry a little bit when I will spread it with my finger after I apply the glue with the stick. Then I will spread it with my finger and let it dry for a little moment, because when it's too wet, the glue, when it will make that your lamination will move around when you put the clamps. So I wait a little moment till the glue starts to dry a little bit, and then it will less happen. It will not occur. So now we spread it with our finger and make sure that everywhere is the same amount of glue. I see I used a little bit too much. My concentration is less because I have to make this video. The too much glue is no good, because then it will move when we put the clamps on it. It really has to be just a very modest thin layer of glue, not very thick. It has no sense to put a very thick layer. It won't improve the bond. As you can see, the modelism is based most on paint and white glue and some materials. My system. In the past they used bone glue or hide glue, and that has the big how you say the big advantage that you can take things apart again with some heat or steam, which is not possible with white glue. Once it's dry, you only can take things apart mechanically or by damaging it. You can't take it apart without damaging, almost. I think I have read somewhere that you can use alcohol, rubbing alcohol to take it apart again. Now what I'm going to do, once I spread it evenly everywhere it is even thick, it shouldn't be thicker, too thick somewhere, and by the way, then I let it yes, I leave it to dry for a little moment, like 1 minute, 2 minutes. It's warm now, so 2 minutes or 1 minute is enough. Now I can still comment that this is just a thin plywood, and I will reinforce it with wood. This will actually be under the table top. The table top, the table blade will be. It will be possible to take the top of the table apart, take it off, and then under it, this will be like a box, and there I can do my model scenery under my table. Like that, it won't be taking place, taking space too much. Because if it takes space and you don't know where to put it, it can be a pain in the ass. So it's a very practical solution if you don't have a lot of space and you still want to do a nice scenery, a nice project like this carving of the bridge and things like this. This takes a lot of time, but that's okay. If this project costs like 10-20 years, I don't care. It is a pleasure to look at it when it's the building which is giving you pleasure and not the result. The result is of course nice as well, but then it's finished. The most of the fun is the making, I think. Okay, we waited in long enough. Now we can put with some extra here at the back, we can put our boat now where it should be, and we respect the marked outlines which we marked on the lamination, and we can start putting very carefully now one clamp, and it will start to move because there's a lot of glue. You put very carefully one clamp, and it will move. In order to stop it from moving, you put a second clamp just temporarily, and as you can see, it moves all the time now. It's really not very pleasant. And I put one more, and with the hope that it will stop, but it doesn't. So I take one more. Maybe it stops now. No, it still slides. But as it is drying, it will suddenly stop to move as it starts to stick more. When the glue starts to become thicker, the thicker it gets, the harder it is to move it. And I try to put each clamp as much as possible at the end and not too much in the middle, because we want the ends to be closed, and in the middle it will be more or less glued, but not too important. The most important is that here at all the sides at the rail it will be closed. If it isn't closed there, you have a problem. There will be a big gap, an ugly gap which you can't close anymore. You want it to be closed, especially on the outsides. Now you really have to control that it follows the mark lines, because once it's dry, the only way how to remove it will be mechanically. Okay, and then start to put the clamps. It starts to dry and it doesn't want to move anymore like it did before. Very carefully I put every clamp single onto the onto the solid block, and I make sure that the clamp is as much as possible on the outside, not too much in the middle, really as much as possible. And a good sign is when you see that the glue starts to squeeze out, because then it means your clamp is in the right position. When it's not squeezing out the glue, it's a bad sign. So, but with every clamp you put on your boat, you should verify if it is as much as possible on the outside and if the glue starts to squeeze out. If the glue doesn't squeeze out, there's only two possibilities. It might be that you didn't put enough glue, or your clamp doesn't have too much force, or it is not on the right position. Three possibilities. Three reasons why the glue doesn't come out. There's only like one more that can be clamped, I think, here at the bow. one more clamp, and then at the back I can put like 2 or 3 little ones, the same kind of clamps but just a smaller version, smaller size. Or you could put clothespins, which you just changed a little bit. Now it is important to not be impatient. Once the clamps are all in place, you just leave it to dry on a place which is not too cold, not too warm, like room temperature. And it is very important now to wait at least 2-3 hours. Some say 1 hour, but I don't believe that. You leave it to dry now for 2 hours, and then you do what I showed you at the beginning of this video. You cut off the excess, and then cut it very carefully with a knife. Start to shape this next planking. And then once you reached this stage that you are here, then you stop in the middle. You won't continue in the middle anymore. You only would add at the back and at the front like 5 or 6 more laminations. You just measure it from the drawing, from this drawing, and then you kind of start to shape the whole hull and apply the strips for the rails, the rub rails, and make the deck and the windows, the rudder and the rigging with the mast. These are the details when your project is more advanced. If you want me to send you by post the drawings of this design, I have like 2 versions in scale 1/72. I can send you. You just mail me a series email here on YouTube, and I scale 1. Let me see here, 1/72. That's the scale. You just mail me a series mail, and we can arrange it. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your projects.